दृष्टि ने तुम्हारी बाबा हम सब की सृष्टि बदल दी। दृष्टि ने तुम्हारी बाबा हम सब की सृष्टि बदल दी। एक शक्ति अलौकिक भर दे, आनंद वृष्टि कर दे। दृष्टि ने तुम्हारी बाबा हम सब की सृष्टि बदल दी। ये देह भान भुलाती है, दुनिया से दूर ले जाती है। जो उड़न खटोले में लेकर त्रिलोक का सैर कराती है। श्रीमत की डोर में चित चोर बन अपनी ओर लिए चल दी। दृष्टि ने तुम्हारी बाबा हम सब की सृष्टि बदल दी।
Om Shanti, everyone. Good evening. So we are going to be reviewing Baba's Murli of Sunday. And there's so much in the Murli that I'm sure when you read it again, you would say that under this whole subject of faith and victory, there is so much that we need to pay attention to. And before even we could pay attention to it, we need to understand the subtleties of faith and the subtleties of the victory that that faith brings. Baba referred to the faith as the foundation of Brahmin life. And he refers to the proof of this faith, of the foundation of Brahmin life, to be victory. And then, of course, he is saying it means that when we call ourselves Brahmins, it means that our intellects have faith. And so it seems to be that the victory that comes from faith is a victory of the intellect. So that's something to turn on. That Brahmins means those who have faith in the intellect. And the intellect, when the intellect has faith, that is called victory. And then Baba asked us the question about the percentage of the faith we have and the victory we have. And according to Baba's assessment, is that we are experiencing a greater percentage when it comes to faith, but there is a lower percentage when it comes to the victory experienced from that faith. And so there we have to now pay attention to this. Why is there the inconsistency of the percentage or the unequal percentage between my faith and the victory that comes from the faith. And then Baba challenged us a little bit, and he says, you know, we say to others that an intellect with faith makes you victorious. In other words, faith brings victory. An intellect with faith is a victorious intellect. And so he said, well, why then? If you say that, it means you believe it. It means that somehow you think it is true. But why then is there this difference between the faith that you have and the victory that comes from it? And then he further asked a question, why? Not only why is there this difference, but what is the reason for it? And then, of course, he gave the example of the foundation. And when you're building something, all four sides need to have a strong foundation. So all the pillars need to be strong. They need to be of the same size, the same weight, the same dimensions in order for the building to be held stable. So he says, in the same way, when we are looking at the foundation of our faith, we need to look at the foundation in a full way to make sure that all the four aspects are full and are equal, are full and are strong and are equal for our Brahmin life to rest on. So he then went on and he elaborated on these four aspects of full faith. So they're the four aspects of full faith in our foundation. The first faith Baba talked about, he said that we should have, is full faith in the Father, full faith in him. So what is this full faith in the Father? He's saying we have to have full faith in whatever Baba is and however Baba is. So whatever Baba is, we know what he is. He is a being of light. He's incorporeal. However Baba is, he has described to us that he comes into this body of Brahma and he speaks to us through the body of Brahma. But then also to understand the Srimad. Srimad is what he gives. However he is, he gives this Srimad. So we have to understand and have faith in the Srimad that he is giving us. Now, what is it that I need to have faith in? Is that I have to, excuse me, I have to apply this Srimad accurately according to the method he's giving. So Srimad means application of knowledge. Srimad means I'm following something. So I need to understand it, but I need to understand it accurately according to the method. And after understanding the accuracy of the method, I then need to accept it. And then I need to follow it. So this is full faith in the Father. Okay, I understand the Father. I understand him in the way he described himself. But there's another layer to the faith he's calling to our attention. And that is the faith of the Srimad, in the Srimad he's giving. And the faith that comes from understanding the Srimad, from applying the Srimad accurately according to the method. So the understanding of the Srimad is the method to understand that accurately. And then even before I follow it, I need to accept it. So the accepting of it is the faith, and the following of it is the victory. But then Baba says that we usually have a heart-to-heart conversation with him. when it comes to faith, full faith in the Father. And this conversation is called innocence. It's a conversation we have with him in which we are children and we appear in front of him as innocent children. And Baba says, we say to him in great innocence as his children that we have full faith in him. And not only do we have full faith in him, we would say to him, Baba, I'm yours and you're mine. And so don't even ask us how much faith we have, because it's not just 100% faith we have in you, Baba. We have 500% faith in you. And then Baba says, we say to him, even though I have 500% faith in you, there is still upheaval in my life. There is still upheaval around me. But then we further in our conversation, in order to please him, in order to appease him, as he says, that we keep underlining this thought, this assurance to Baba. Baba, you are mine. We keep saying to him, Baba, you are mine. And Baba says, we say this very innocently to him. And we say to Baba, you're mine. And then Baba would say, yes, I'm yours. But in saying to Baba, you are mine, the innocence is, Baba, accept me for whatever I am, because whatever I am, I'm yours. And then Baba, in return, say the same thing to us. He says, okay, whatever you are, I'm going to accept you. You are mine. However, also understand, Baba, that however Baba is yours. Whatever Baba is yours. And so it's like Baba indulges us. We are saying this to Baba and he's saying back the same thing to us. But he notices that we are doing it with an innocence that could deceive us. And so he was drawing our attention to say this to Baba, to say that, Baba, you're mine and I'm yours, and whatever I am, I'm yours. And Baba says back the same thing to me. He says there's an innocence here in what you're saying that could turn against you, that could deceive you. Because he's saying, it's good that you are innocent, but just don't be innocent with Baba with words. You have to be innocent in your heart. In other words, an innocent heart is an honest heart. It's a pure heart. So he's saying it's not enough to become innocent and say words to him and even bring it out in your actions. But what Baba looks at is the innocence, the purity, the honesty in your heart. Because the Lord is pleased with an honest heart. So he's saying this thing about innocence is that when you become naive, when you become clever, there's a cleverness in what you're saying to him in your words. He says the danger there is that you deceive yourself with your words, you deceive others, and when you are innocent in your actions, you cause harm to yourself and you cause harm for service. So when you're innocent in your words, there's deception to self and deception to others. When you're innocent in your actions, there's harm to yourself and there's harm to service. So then Baba is saying, go back to your heart and be innocent. He was saying that when you're innocent in your heart, when you're honest in your heart, you're like a total saint. And of course, we know what being a saint feels like. It's like being saintly. It is like something that makes us feel really good, sacred. But then Baba says, he then cautions us, and he says that when we speak or when we listen, we must always do it from a stage. And that inner stage should be Trikaldarshi. And I think he's referring here to when we're talking to him, because this is about having faith in Baba, the faith that he is addressing here. And he is showing us how the faith fluctuates through our conversation with him is faith in him. So when we listen to him or when we speak to him, we must do so in the stage of being Trikaldarshi, of a past, a present, and a future, and knowing that Baba is listening to me also with these three aspects of time. And then he says, when I'm acting, I need to also be knowledgeable about the outcome of my actions before I act. So if I'm deciding to act, I must put it against the Srimad that he's telling us, to know him as he is, however he is, but to know his Srimad. So knowledgeful means before I act, what I'm about to do, is it according to Srimad? And if I run it against the Srimad kind of yardstick, if I measure it against that, then it means I'm knowledgeable. I'm going back to the Murli. I'm going back to understand that this action is connected to knowledge that Baba is giving me. So I'm going to follow the Srimad according to the knowledge. And then he says, if you do that, I mean, even if you just pause for a second before you act, you will never have regrets. You will never say, go back to Baba and say, it shouldn't happen, but it did happen. I shouldn't have spoken like that, but I did speak like that. Baba says, if I have those thoughts of regret, then I must understand that I did not look at the outcome of my action. I didn't know it. I didn't measure it against Srimad and knowledge. And so I performed that action innocently. And here, innocently means an innocence that deceived me. So Baba says, I have to become aware that I'm not just doing things innocently. I must not justify myself in this way and say, you know, I didn't want to speak that, but I did it innocently. I didn't want to do that, but I did it innocently. So Baba says that don't do that because you will be deceived. And so we have to understand now the full faith in the Father. Is this faith working or not for me? I will understand if this faith is shaking or not based on my conversations I'm having with Baba. And two things he's asking us to do here. Be Trikaldarshi when we listen and speak, and be knowledgeful when we do actions. Do not do it out of innocence. That would deceive us. And then the second full faith, the second aspect of faith that he's telling us to check is that a faith in the self. But this faith in the self that Baba has talked about is the faith in the form of our elevated fortune. That the soul is complete with its elevated self-respect. So I have to know my elevated fortune and have faith in that. But I equally have to have faith in the complete elevated self-respect. I have to accept this self-respect that is connected to my fortune. And then I have to follow this elevated fortune with self-respect. So the thing here to churn is, what is my form of elevated fortune? And my complete state of self-respect is connected to this form of elevated fortune. And to have faith in it means I have to accept it, and I have to live my life by it. I have to follow it. So the form, Baba says, is that this is what we don't have faith in. We don't have full faith in the form of our elevated fortune. Now, the form of elevated fortune could be two things. It could be angelic stage, which is a state of complete freedom. Or it could be, and it could be not or, and it could be my form of a deity, which is my liberation in life form. Now, both are forms of fortune. I could also be that my form of fortune could be I am the child of the Father. I am the student of the teacher. I am the one who follows the Srimad of the Satguru. These are all forms of elevated fortune. But however I see my form as elevated fortune, I must accept it with complete self-respect and live by it. But then Baba says, we say we have 100% faith in our elevated form of fortune. However, he then outlined to us the conversations we have with him that indicates our lack of faith in ourselves. And he says that when we talk to him, and Baba is, he personalizes in such a beautiful way. He's telling us how the intellect lacks the faith and how the foundation is weak through our heart-to-heart conversations with him, through the simple things that we say to him. He is then using it to say back to us, children, look into this mirror of this conversation and see how your faith fluctuates, how your foundation is weak, and fix it. And so what do we say to him in a heart-to-heart conversation? It indicates our lack of faith in ourselves. And Baba says, if we say to Baba, Baba, I have faith in you, Baba, but I don't have that much faith in myself. Sometimes there is faith in me, but sometimes the faith comes down, the faith decreases, the faith gets less. So Baba says that what he hears at that time, when we're telling him, you're describing how we have faith, but we have faith in Baba, but how the faith in ourselves decreases. He says the words that we use the words are quite interesting. He says we keep saying, Baba, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. I don't know why it's like this. I don't know how I can have faith in you and how I can't have faith in myself. But significantly, what we also say to him is that I don't know what my fortune is. So that's one thing that indicates that there's a lack of faith in myself. I don't know what my fortune is. So obviously, what is being said here by Baba is if you don't have faith in your elevated fortune, then your faith will fluctuate in yourself because you don't have that self-respect, because you don't know what your fortune is. So to build faith in yourself, we have to answer this question of what my fortune is.
ज्ञानी बनो, योगी जीवन है प्यारा। काम क्रोध मद लोभ मोह वश आज है सब मोहताज। योग लगा कर पाप मिटा ले, स्वर्ग सजा ले तू आज। काम क्रोध मद लोभ मोह वश आज है सब मोहताज। योग लगा कर पाप मिटा ले, स्वर्ग सजा ले तू आज।
जन्म जन्म की प्यास बुझा ले, पावन बन कर आज।
योगी बनो, ज्ञानी बनो, योगी जीवन है प्यारा।
संगम युग में परम पिता शिव कहते हैं राज।
तू है एक अविनाशी आत्मा, सुन लो मेरी आवाज।
संगम युग में परम पिता शिव कहते हैं राज।
तू है एक अविनाशी आत्मा, सुन लो मेरी आवाज।
सुख शांति और पावनता से झोले भर लो आज।
योगी बनो, ज्ञानी बनो, योगी जीवन है प्यारा।
परम धाम से आए हैं शिव ब्रह्मा तन आधार। मुक्ति और जीवन मुक्ति का जन्म सिद्ध अधिकार। परम धाम से आए हैं शिव ब्रह्मा तन आधार। मुक्ति और जीवन मुक्ति का जन्म सिद्ध अधिकार।
चलना है चलना है घर वापस, अब तो यही ज्ञान का सार। योगी बनो, ज्ञानी बनो, योगी जीवन है प्यारा। योगी जीवन है प्यारा, योगी जीवन है प्यारा।
So our lack of faith is not knowing what my fortune is. This second aspect of lack of faith shows up in my doubting whether I'll receive Baba's help. And the third aspect of a lack of faith in myself is again to question whether I will receive success or not. So these are the three areas that Baba wants us to look at, because this is what shakes the faith in the self, either one of these things. But then he says that he reminded us of our title of Master Almighty Authority. And he says, if you are a Master Almighty Authority, if you're a child of the Almighty Authority, then you will never sing the song that I don't know. And so I don't know whether I will receive help from the Father. I don't know whether there will be success. I don't know what my fortune is. So we have to look at these three areas, and we have to make sure it's not shaking the faith in the self. And then the third aspect of this foundational faith was in the family. And so Baba was saying that we must always know, not just see the family, but know before I see. So I have to recognize this family to be a family that's elevated. It's an elevated set of people I am with right now, and it is called the Brahmin family. So I have to know this in a way that I recognize it accurately and according to the method, he says, and then I have to accept it, and I have to be part of it. So accurately, according to the method, this elevated Brahmin family is, each one is a Brahmin soul. Each one has recognized Baba. Each one is remembering Baba and is doing something with Baba, is an instrument with Baba. And now I know that each one I'm connected to at a spiritual level. I'm connecting to this elevated Brahmin family, knowing that I will be with them throughout the whole cycle. But I'm recognizing and knowing them now to be souls, that I, the soul, am related to this group of people called the Brahmin family. And this recognition came because Baba has introduced each soul to me. And Baba has placed each soul in their rightful place in this family tree of the Brahmins. So, however you want to make sense of this elevated Brahmin family in relation to your life, it is important to do it according to the method that Baba is using at the Confluence Age to create the Brahmin family. Then I have to accept these souls, and then I have to be part of the family. But then Baba says, he tells us to do this, to have faith in the family, but in our heart-to-heart conversations with him, this is what happens. And again, he's saying, look into the mirror of what you say to me, and you will understand how your faith shakes in the family. How what you're saying, I have faith in this one, with the words and I suppose with actions that I do, but internally there's something missing. You don't have the faith. So he's saying the conversation that we have with Baba is first of all, we go directly to him, which is the method, because we all have to take birth from Shiv Baba through the mouth of Brahma to be a Brahmin. And then everyone who does that becomes part of the family. So that's where we start from in our complaints, that shows that we don't have faith in the family. We go to Baba and we say to Baba, Baba, when I became a Brahmin, I made a contract with you after seeing you. And the contract I made was, Baba, you are mine and I am yours. And then I became a Brahmin, which is true. I'm a mouth-born child of Brahma. So I took birth through Shiv Baba, through the mouth of Brahma. I didn't make a contract with the Brahmin family, which means they weren't Brahma through whose mouth I took that birth. So he says, and then we go on to say, and when I look at the Brahmin family, I see so many different types of conflict that I didn't come here, Baba, to be in conflict. I only came for you, Baba, and I only want to be with you because it's very difficult to be with the Brahmin gathering, to be with the Brahmin family. But to be with you, Baba, to be with you alone is not difficult. So this is what we say to Baba when we are having issues with the family. And then Baba replies, Baba smiles, he says, and then Baba asks us this question about being content. Baba is saying that we are having issues with the family because we're lacking contentment. There's a lack of contentment. And of course, the Hindi word is prasanchit. There's a lack of contentment in me. So I'm looking to blame someone for that. And the first set of people that I would blame is the family. And he says that because of that lack of contentment, then we begin to ask many questions about the Brahmin family. And so he says that's prashan chit. Because my lack of contentment, I'm reasoning it's because of these people. Something is they're not doing right. And so that is giving me discontentment. So Baba says, simple words come out of our mouth to indicate this lack of contentment through the questions that we ask. And these questions would be, why is it like this? What is this? What is going on? Is this how it should be? Is this what should happen? And we all ask these questions when we are discontented in some form, and then we project it on the family. So then Baba, in response to that, he's asking us a question. What have you come here for? He asked. Have you come here for liberation, or have you come here for liberation in life? And so he says that Brahma Baba, of course, you're going to get both liberation and liberation in life, but what is your aim and objective? So he says, with Brahma Baba, it was liberation in life. And so he says, if Brahma Baba is going into liberation in life, he knows that he's not just going to go with Mama. There's just not going to be a king and a queen in his kingdom. There will be a whole dynasty. And so we should understand that our goal, our aim and objective of liberation in life is a contract to live with a group of people that is today called my family and will tomorrow be my dynasty. And so he says, we tell people that we are creating this eternal, this original eternal deity religion. And we are creating both a religion and a kingdom. And we make this distinction between what we are doing and what other souls are doing. And so he says, if you are creating a religion and a kingdom, then this must be firm in your intellect, that this is a kingdom, and there will not just be one king and one queen, with me as one daughter and someone else as one son. No, it will be a kingdom of the family of the Brahmins that I am with today. So this faith, he says, will allow us to have faith in the family, to accept this family and to become part of it. Because it's not just what I'm seeing here, but how the family is becoming the reason for me to make the efforts to change, because I'm doing it within the company of the Brahmin family. And Baba, of course, is my contract is with Baba. And he is observing how I'm able to live in harmony with the Brahmin family, how I'm able to change my sanskaras as I interact and interface with the Brahmin family. So it's a whole method of transformation that is occurring within the family now that will create the kingdom and will give me a status in that kingdom. So then Baba also talked about the family is a kingdom that you're creating, but it's also a rosary. And here it is not about the single beads scattered all over the place, but here it is about a thread of love that connects all the beads in the rosary. So he's saying that when you make your efforts within the context of the BK family, the Brahmin family, you are doing so with love, with this thread of love, and you're being threaded closely to one another. So this is why the Brahmin family, the foundation is love. The kingdom, the foundation is love. And he says that this is why we should not be afraid of the Brahmin family. We should not, I think, be afraid of them, but also not to reject them, not to say, I don't need them in my life, but to always remember that they are very much part of our transformation. And where do I fit within the Brahmin family is what I should be looking at. I should never say things like, Baba is mine. What would the sisters do? What would the brothers do? I have not made a promise to the sisters or brothers. No, Baba says, a Brahmin life is a life of relationships. And a life of relationships is what the rosary is all about. I really like that. When I think of relationships within the context of spirituality, what visual comes to my mind is a rosary. And so Baba says, never, ever have doubts in the family, and never have waste thoughts about the family, because it will make our faith fluctuate when it comes to the family. And that is a big thing, because I think faith in ourselves is one, we lack it. We sometimes don't have it because we can't recognize our fortune. But faith in the family shakes because we use the family to project our discontentment. And that brings us into upheaval when we do that. So Baba is saying that he doesn't want to hear this from us, that Baba is good, the knowledge is good, but these daddies, these teachers, these instruments, the family is not good. Baba does not want us to hear that, because these are not words that would stabilize our intellect. They are not words that are being spoken from an intellect that has faith. So we have to watch our words when it comes to the family, because immediately it reflects a lack of faith. And when it reflects that lack of faith, we fluctuate and we start separating ourselves and we start losing power from Baba. So Baba says that these waste thoughts, the first thing they do is that they remove our contentment, and they remove the contentment from the intellect. The intellect does not remain content. And so when the intellect doesn't remain content, now he didn't say the heart, he says the intellect doesn't remain content when we criticize the family, when we have waste thoughts. So there are quite a few things there that I have to look at in relation to the family, and to check why my faith fluctuates when it comes to the family, and what is it I'm not understanding about this family that has been put there as part of the yajna for me to grow, for me to transform, for me to come back into my fullness, my completeness. So I have to, Baba says, you have to look at the levels at which your faith shakes, but particularly this lack of contentment that occurs in the intellect that results in a discontentment with the family. I have to check that. And then the final one that Baba talked about as the fourth aspect is time. And Baba was saying that to recognize that this is the most elevated and auspicious confluence age, to recognize this as a time in the entire cycle that has importance, to accept it and to move along with it. So the confluence age, the time of importance and significance, the time that elevated and auspicious things are happening, I have to recognize that time is now. And I have to accept that this is what is happening. I can't wait for time to change things. I have to change it now, because this is the time to change things. And then I move along with that knowledge so that I'm changing before time, and time isn't compelling me to change, because what he says is that I won't get the marks if I'm compelled by time to change. I won't accumulate any of the marks. Time will be given the honor of that change that occurred within me because time compelled me to change. And so I didn't change by choice, I changed by compulsion. So he says, move along with this time, with faith that this is the time I make my choices and I'm not compelled by time, because time is supporting me to do this before I have to face the situation. So he was saying that our conversations with him again indicates that we haven't understood this point accurately. And so our faith in this point shakes. And the way the faith shakes is again by what we say in our heart-to-heart conversations with him, that we understand all of that. We understand that this is the age when souls are meeting with Baba, the Supreme Soul. We know all of that, Baba says. But then even knowing all of that and saying it to Baba, what happens? And then the procrastination, there's a kind of a laziness in which we said, you know what, even though I know all of this, there's still time remaining. So in a way, I'm taking time for granted and said, you know, I can relax a little bit. I can go do what I have to do and then come back to Baba because there's still time remaining. And so then we go into this whole thing of destruction that ever since the beginning, the Brahma Kumaris have been talking about destruction, that it is going to happen, but it hasn't happened. Baba has said that there won't be another Diwali, and yet there were so many Diwalis after. So Baba says we start talking to him about things he has said, and we start, you know, going back to the time of establishment, and we start talking about these things. And then it is that when we do that, he said, it's like going back and resting on this Dunlop pillow. It's this very comfortable mattress or the very comfortable Dunlop with which the pillow is made. And then we move into a slumber of carelessness and laziness. And that immediately impacts on our effort. And our efforts become slack and slow. And it's like we're dragging along because we're thinking, you know, there is time. Why am I rushing? What am I running for? That when the time is right, I will be all right. And so, and we even assure Baba, underlining means we're saying something to him that we're assuring him of. Baba, I'm taking my time now, but you know what? At the right time, I will be ready. And you just see, I will claim a very high number at the right time. And when Baba watches us wasting time, not recognizing that this time is a fixed time for the change to happen. And if I waste it, I'm not going to get it back to change. I'm actually writing my destiny for all the cycles to come. Baba continues to caution us. And Baba is cautioning us by telling us that reminding us about the transformation that has to happen. And so he was saying that if transformation is brought about before the time, the marks will be accumulated for the efforts that we put in. So we transformed and then something happened and we were ready for it. So we get the marks for the efforts that we put in. But if I make effort according to the time, which means that time is compelling me to make that effort, then I don't get the marks. Time, he is saying, receive those marks. And so he says, then if that happens, then I will realize that I was deceived by that slumber of ignorance, by that sleep of carelessness and laziness. And then he calls us that we are these little kumbhakarnas, sleeping in the laziness and sleeping in the carelessness. And we were not able to have that faith that brought us victory because we were deceived. We weren't able to save ourselves. And Baba says, we won't be able to do that at the end, because at the end, we won't be able to make ourselves worthy of passing whatever test we have to pass fully, because we were little kumbhakarnas sleeping in laziness and carelessness. So I feel that this thing about time, we have to look at and really reaffirm faith in time and know that time is giving us the opportunity to claim the marks based on our efforts, and not for time. Time is not competing with us for marks. Time is cooperating with us to give us the marks. But when we go and become little kumbhakarnas of carelessness and laziness, then what happens is that we're deceived by our own ignorance and we are not able to pass fully. And just think about it. If you have a relationship with time, and if that happens, I wonder if time won't be a little bit disappointed in us, saying that, you know, I was there to help you all along, but you didn't take my help. I was helping you to transform, but you kept going back. You kept going back, pulled back with this gravity of carelessness and laziness. And so we have to look at that. And maybe faith in this time is to really create a relationship with time and to understand how powerful time is and how wonderful a role it is playing in our lives. And then Baba reasserted this thing of having unshakable faith in the intellect. And he was saying that the ones who would have the unshakable faith in the intellect would be ones who would have all these four aspects with fullness, full percentage in all four. That would be an accurate intellect with faith. And so it is not just, oh, I have full faith in God, but not myself. I have a little bit more faith in myself, but less faith in the family. I have lesser faith in the family than I have in time. No, all should be at the same level. So this is called equanimity, I suppose, when it comes to the aspect of the four faiths, that there is an equality in all four that gives me the stage of equanimity. So for me to have that stage of equanimity, the percentages in these four aspects will have to be at the same level. And then, of course, Baba says, there will be that victory, because when my pillars are unshakable, then I wouldn't be defeated. But when they are not unshakable, when they are shaken by the upheavals, I will be defeated. I won't be victorious. So then there was a few others. Of course, Baba asked us to check the foundation of our faith. And that was part of the homework that we had to do. And so he then brought us back to the year of tapasya. And he said that, of course, the tapasya hasn't completed. It's not the end. We have to continue doing it. And so the first part of the homework of tapasya, what we had to look at was giving the return of love to the Father, was giving the proof of love that we have for Baba, and particularly Brahma Baba, and also to become equal, to use that love to become equal to Baba. But then he was reminding us that the further homework we had to do for this year was to check these foundations of faith. And because the foundation of faith was moving us into the direction of claiming a right to the kingdom as deities. And we can't forget this right to the kingdom, that we are creating a kingdom. But he says that we have to fulfill. In doing so, we have to fulfill a responsibility to the family. We also have to finish any upheaval. And then if we are looking at all four faiths in creating this kingdom, this divine kingdom that Brahmins have a right to, then he says there will be this equality in our faith and our victory. And this is something we have to pay attention to. And then he went on to talk about the two types of cleverness, which, I mean, it's so deep in terms of our dharna. And that is, he was saying, our myopic vision, which is our nearsighted vision, and our hyperopia vision, which is our farsighted vision. And so he was saying that this is the cleverness in ourselves, that we are not aware of ourselves. And what we are doing is that we're not looking at ourselves, but we are looking at others. So we are not spinning the discus of self-realization, but we are spinning the discus of looking at others, parchintan. And so Baba says that we have to look at this and we have to change it. That Baba is saying this nearsighted vision of some children is good. And he says the far-sighted vision of some children, it is becoming good. But what he's saying is that we have to have both. In other words, we have to know what's going on in myself, and we also have to know what's going on in others. But our attention must be on being the Swaдаrshan chakras. I must not spend my time only looking at what's going on in others and not knowing what's going on in myself. I must be as clear about myself as I am about others. And so just as how I could, I would clearly tell the seniors about what I see in others, I must also clearly tell the seniors what I could see in myself. Just as how I take something small that is going on for others and make it very big, and I would take something very big that's going on inside of me and make it very small, I must be able to do that for others. And so this whole thing about nearsightedness and farsightedness was a cleverness that we have, and we have to stop that cleverness, and we have to come back to being true, being people, souls with integrity. And what I would do for myself, I would also do for others. I would do it in the same way. I wouldn't have different standards for myself and different standards for others. So I must stop that cleverness, he was saying. And the second cleverness that he told us about was this truth and falsehood. And so he was saying that some of us, we don't like, we say to Baba, look, Baba, I cannot bear to hear about any falsehood. I just don't like falsehood, because when that falsehood appears in front of me, I respond with a great force. There's a force. So Bob says, even to say that, do you think that language is right? Okay, he says, if something is untrue and you are using force, he says, you are looking at that untruth that you don't like with a force that is equally untrue. So which is true and which is false? So he says that's one thing that we do. The other thing we do is that we try to forcefully prove the truth. And we try to say, you know what, I am going to tell them, I'm going to show them that this truth, and I'm going to use this truth to finish that falsehood. But he says, to finish falsehood is a good aim, but you cannot challenge anything with a force that creates an anger within you and say that that is truth. So the means must justify the end. So I cannot use anger and force to prove truth because the means is wrong. And so the end would not be the truth. So he was saying that this cleverness that we have to look at it, and we have to make sure that we don't create a fire when there is a fire already burning, that we must become heat proof. Now, one thing he said about this, about keeping ourselves safe, and I think it's very much connected to this month's Avyakti Parivar topic of Maryada Purushottam, because one of the code that we follow is truth. And so if the code is truth, then the conduct will be according to that code of truth. So Baba was reminding us that the sign of truth, which is satyata, is manners, sabhyata. So if my code is truth, then my conduct will be my manners. And so it will be based on that code of truth. And so he says that when you have the power of truth as a code of conduct, then you will never let go of your manners. Your manners will be the means to living that truth, will be according to the truth. It wouldn't be against the truth. And so he says that, yes, definitely live by the code of truth. Prove that truth, but do it with total manners. And I like that very much because it is connected with the Maryada Purushottam. Because if I try to prove truth without the sabhyata, without the spiritual manners, without the conduct according to that code of truth, then there will be stubbornness in me. And stubbornness, he said, is not truth. What is truth is a sign of humility. And so he says that someone who is a Maryada Purushottam, who follows the code of truth, will be humble and will interact with others with manners of humility that comes from that humility. So that was another cleverness that I thought was very, very deep, not to prove yourself to be right, not to have the stubbornness, but to remember the manners that are connected to truth. And he says, because truth is like the sun and it will always shine, nothing can hide the sun. So in a way, you don't have to prove the truth because the truth is like the sun. And if I live by the code of truth, my life will shine like the rays of the sun, and truth will show itself. And again, he said, you don't even have to use these words, which are kind of belittling to myself and belittling to when I'm telling the truth. If I have to say, I'm telling you the truth, he says, no, you don't even have to say that. If it's truth, it will shine true. You don't have to say to someone, I'm telling you the truth. And then Baba talked about self-transformation. He says, always remember that self-transformation is first, and not to worry so much about others, but to transform yourself first. So he was saying that this thing of having good wishes, we tend to say that, Baba, I'm not worried, but I'm one who has good wishes for others. Baba says you won't be able to have good wishes for others if you forget yourself, because he says to forget yourself and to have good wishes for others is not being called one who has good wishes, but we have to have the concern for ourselves. Because if we don't have concern for ourselves, if we don't have the capacity, then we won't be able to give others good wishes, because our arrows wouldn't strike the target. It wouldn't help them because we are coming from a space of emptiness. We haven't done the dharana work then. So we won't be able to give the good wishes. And even though we may be sitting giving sakash, we would say, but it's not working. Why? Because we haven't filled ourselves with the good wishes first before we could give to others. And then finally, Baba talked about having true love. Baba has true love from his heart for the children. And I thought that this was so beautiful because it really summarized the whole Murli, in which he says, he's telling us all of this. He's showing us the mirror of our heart-to-heart conversation to show us how little things shake our faith. They're not big things. They're little things that shake our faith. And so these are weaknesses that Baba cannot bear to see in our lives, because he's saying he has so much love for us. And so he wants us to become complete. And Baba, who is the conqueror of hearts, he gives us love from his heart. And he tells us all of this. Why? Because he wants to see every child becoming equal and elevated. And he wants to see us as images of success. He doesn't want to see us struggling with efforts, but he wants us to see what he wants to see us as images of success. And I think that this is the crux of the matter, that if we could master these four faiths, these four aspects of foundational faith, get rid of those cleverness that we use, and really go back and understand the accuracy of all the four faiths, and then do it, knowing that these little weaknesses that Baba has brought to our attention can be removed very easily, because Baba is opening himself to help us remove those weaknesses. Then we will see ourselves as images of success, not as struggling effort makers. So I suppose I end today's reviewing of the Murli with this one kind of sentence. A Brahmin's life is an image of success, because a Brahmin sits on the seat of four foundational faiths that brings that Brahmin victory. Om Shanti.
जो भी कहना है वो कहने